It's spooky season. This is the end of October, guys, and we are coming back with a fresh episode about some scary things you might not realize you're doing that are directly impacting your health.
Happy Halloween, everybody. We are finally back. We are back in St. Petersburg, Florida. Traveling was amazing. We're happy to be back and get back to the podcast. We have a lot of great episodes and great information coming to you very soon. This is the top 5 scariest things you're doing right now that are impacting your health that you may not be thinking about.
Right, exactly. And we thought, what a perfect way to kind of come back and just talk a little bit about some of the things that we do kind of talk about, but also go a little more in depth and cover some topics that we don't always talk about. So you're getting a little bit of everything today. And again, we always appreciate you guys tuning in to the Holistic Travel Therapy Podcast. If you're new, my name is Courtney Condon, occupational therapist.
I'm John Wilson, doctor of physical therapy.
So, John, you're going to go ahead and start us off, right?
Yeah, so at number 1, without further ado, we are going to talk about added sugars. So, added sugars is something that we have been, talking about for a while now. And when you really look at everyday products and everyday groceries that you'd get, processed foods, definitely, cereals, obviously, any frozen food, stuff like that from the grocery store, you really want to look at the added sugars. Added sugars are going to first of all, they're there for no reason, like we talked about before, but they're going to just increase that inflammation tenfold, right? And we are seeing, I see in the nursing facilities, basically everybody I see has type 2 diabetes. They have Alzheimer's, dementia, and the more research that we do, the more we're looking at it, we're seeing that this is actually caused by just too much sugar, right?
Right.
So trying to find those other, we did a couple episodes before of the other options, the lower sugar. You want to look for 0 grams of added, but even just anything from like 5 to 10 grams of added sugar, we usually say is okay. As far as like a kombucha, for example, something that's healthy for you, but
Right. I think we've talked about before that you want like 30 total grams of added sugar a day. So, our last episode was about drinks and even fruit juices, right? Like every kid wants apple juice or orange juice, but just taking the extra time to check the back of the gallon or the box and looking at that added sugar. And again, if you are trying to consume 30 grams a day, making sure that that serving is having less than 5 grams if you're going to have maybe 1 or 2 servings of just that juice combined with all the other things that you're consuming. So it's pretty scary
yeah.
when we don't look at that stuff.
Yeah, and I had a ginger ale the other day, right? Just kind of like at a friend's house, grabbed a ginger ale. And I remember, when I was like sick, back in the day, my stomach or my grandma would always give me a ginger ale and be like, this is gonna cure you right up. So I just kind of looked at it and had like 36 grams of added sugar, and it's just like putting all
in
that
one can.
in one little can and putting all that in your body, especially when you're not feeling good, is just going to increase the inflammation. So it's just not good. So I do have a study here in the Journal of Endocrinology in 2022. They looked at specifically beverages, so liquid sugars, and they found that the sugar beverages promote weight gain through multiple mechanisms. Basically, they increase type 2 diabetes, cardiometabolic risk through the weight gain, high glycemic load in all of these beverages, basically saying that it's going to increase that inflammation. It's going to increase weight. It's shown to increase weight, which we all know that obesity and weight gain is going to lead to a plethora of
So
different
many.
of different diseases.
Yes. And I think John was kind of mentioning the other day too of like the accessibility of these foods and these beverages, right? They're everywhere. You're at work and you're in the break room and there's a vending machine, or you're out with friends and you're grabbing a drink or something. And so you just do have to be a little bit more mindful. I think that's the biggest thing. And giving you guys this information, hopefully you can make smarter choices for yourself and kind of understand that maybe I do need to check the added sugar here and there, because If you're eating things from the ground, fruits, vegetables, proteins, you're good. But the minute you pick up a can or a box, you got to definitely make sure you check those added sugars.
Especially with Halloween,
Yeah.
right? Trick or
Oh my
treating.
gosh. We
So
didn't even think
shout
about
out to my grandma 2 times already, 2 shout outs. She would give out apples and sandwiches to all the kids for trick or treating. So
they're
at the
probably like,
time,
what the heck?
yeah, they literally sloppy joes apples, like what? Where are the Kit Kats and the Reese's Puffs? But basically, just trying to make sure that you're not overloading on the sugar and the candy and
Right.
everything, because it's just not good.
Halloween's fun. Enjoy it, but also use it as an opportunity to look at those things, be mindful of those things. And then if we're sharing this time with our kids and our family, we are mindful of that with them as well. So that is scary thing number one. Ooh, not checking those out. Spooky. All right. So the second scariest thing that you're doing right now is you're focusing on calories versus the quality of your food. So, we're not necessarily saying don't focus on calories, right? But I do think that there's a lot of buzz out there about low calorie things, right? You want to be, eating low calorie. You want to eat these low calorie snacks or treats or things like that. And most likely, if it's promoting or advertising that it's low calorie and it's in a box or a bag or a can, it's probably not the best for you to begin with. It's a processed food. And we've talked about processed foods before on the show, and we know that processed foods are really broken down. They're processed many times, and that means that they don't have the fiber and the added nutrients that is going to help when we consume the food and our body breaks it down and absorbs it. We then are kind of like left with this like empty feeling, right? I think the best example is like a bag of chips or a thing of Cheetos, right? How many Cheeto puffs could you eat until you feel full versus like a bag of almonds, right? I think that nuts are like the greatest counterpart we have out here, because you could eat a whole bag of Cheetos very easily. You probably couldn't eat a whole bag of almonds or walnuts very easily, because they, yes, are more calorically dense, but they're also more nutrient dense. So that is, I think, some of the biggest misconceptions, even when we're talking about like, oh, let me just get, and this is something I used to do all the time. Like, I'm not going to eat a sandwich. I'm going to eat a piece of turkey rolled up in iceberg lettuce because it has less calories. And that iceberg lettuce and turkey is fine, but I'm missing so many micro and macronutrients by focusing on the calories and not saying, hey, maybe instead what we've been doing recently is make like a chicken salad with chicken and some type of hummus and some sauerkraut and some walnuts. So then I'm getting healthy proteins, healthy fats. I'm getting all these nutrients in. I think the biggest, excuse me, the biggest thing, like I said, is when we look at nuts. Nuts are so nutrient dense, but they're also calorically dense. So if you are looking at the back of we're telling you guys, look at sugars, look at the back of things. You might look at the back of a walnut bag and you may say 1 ounce, is almost 200 calories versus I could eat this whole, like bag of chips for the same amount of calories, and I'm getting more chips in than I am walnuts. But there are so many benefits of walnuts. So in 2021, a study published in the Journal of Circulation found that older adults who consumed about 2 servings of walnuts per day had lower LDL cholesterol than those that did not. So LDL is considered that bad cholesterol that everyone is trying to reduce. It also is going to be directly impacted in plaque in the blood vessels and the arteries that are going to lead to stroke, heart attack, all those cardiovascular diseases. So right there, you're consuming something that is good for your body, right? I mean, we're thinking about all the healthy fats in walnuts. It's filled with those omega-3 fatty acids. Has a lot of antioxidants and polyphenol components that are going to help to reduce inflammation in your body and provide so many other benefits. And if I looked at the calories associated with walnuts, I might not include them into my diet compared to thinking of the benefits.
Definitely no, and that's something that I've personally like completely done a 180 on as far as calories, because I used to only kind of look at the calories, right? Like I would look at a bag of something, look at the calories. Okay, this one has less calories, so I'm going to eat that one. And then I just felt like my energy was just so low. Maybe I was losing weight a little bit, but I didn't feel that good. Just my whole GI tract was kind of off. So definitely recently, I feel like we've been looking more at the quality and actually increasing calories and getting more of the nutrients and more of everything that you talked about, and just your energy. You can tell after a few weeks of doing it when you're actually getting in fruits, vegetables, and you're eating a good amount of good food, omega-3s, fatty fish, stuff like that. You just feel better. You feel more focused. You can work for longer, like you can do a lot more things. You can have better workouts, stuff like that, when you're actually getting in those calories. So I think that's a great one. You want to look at quality over quantity when it comes to calories.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, again, as we were kind of saying now with Halloween and everything, it's important to think about the functional benefit of some foods and pairing some very quality nutrient dense foods with some of the fun, not so nutrient dense foods you're eating. So always finding that balance.
Definitely. Number 3, are we ready for it?
We're ready for it.
Number 3 is not maintaining a consistent sleep cycle.
Ooh,
So our
scary.
circadian rhythm is so important. So we talk about food a lot, we talk about nutrition a lot, and I feel like sleep and food are hand in hand when it comes to health. You really need to have good quality sleep, because when you're sleeping, everything is just rejuvenating, everything is recovering, and your muscles, your joints, everything like that, they feel so much better after a good quality sleep. And it's the same kind of thing with the calories.
Right.
We want to focus on that quality, making sure that you're getting a good 8 hours in, rather than you have a couple glasses of wine to fall asleep. Now you might fall asleep quicker, but the quality, you're not getting in that deep stage 4 sleep.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting the good REM cycles that you need. So you want to make sure of that.
Right, exactly. And I think, as you were saying, like the biggest thing we have to remember is that sleep is restorative and reparative to our body. So, the expression, I'll sleep when I'm dead, you're working yourself to the bone, literally, and you need that sleep to restore and repair. And everyone needs different amounts of sleep to be their optimum self, right? Everyone needs a certain amount of sleep to function. Everyone needs a certain amount of sleep to be optimal. And I think that a big thing that we see nowadays is something considered social jet lag, right? So it that is a term used when Monday through Friday we are on a roll. We're on a schedule. We're going to bed at 9:30, 10, we're waking up at 6:30, 7. We're grinding, we're getting in those 8 good hours of sleep. And then Friday comes along and we maybe, go out to dinner with friends. So we go out a little bit later, then we come home and we go to sleep a little bit later. And we think, oh, okay, because I need to, make up for that. Maybe I'll try to sleep in, or, so those small variances in your circadian rhythm or your normal sleep cycle is what is considered social jet lag. And it's actually not as beneficial or straightforward, I should say, as some people may think.
Yeah, so 70% of Americans actually say that they have at least 1 hour of social jet lag. And even us, sometimes it's hard, sometimes you're out with friends, or you're doing something where, you just can't get back and get to sleep by 10 p.m. Or whenever time you usually go to sleep, during the week. But trying to get it as close as possible, super important. So going out, a little bit earlier for a nice earlier dinner, having, a couple mocktails or something. You can have a little drink if you want, a little happy hour, but as long as you're not pushing it. But yeah, having that social interaction is super important. So you want to have that, but also come back at a decent time. So a study here published in the National Library of Medicine in 2020 found that individuals having over 2 hours of social jet lag were associated with an twofold increased risk in metabolic syndrome and diabetes. So we know just for a fact that social jet lag, even if you do feel like you maybe get 8 hours, it's still going to increase your appetite. You're going to feel more hungry throughout the day. You're going to feel a little bit more fatigued, lazy, maybe not go do that workout, be a little bit more lazy. So then you're kind of bored, maybe eating a little more sugar. Definitely going to be making more poor decisions rather than if you did get that good 8 hours of quality sleep.
Right. And I think the biggest thing with metabolic syndrome is the inflammation that's directly impacting our body, right? We already have a lot of inflammatory components in day-to-day life as far as stress, diet, all those things, decreased quality sleep regularly, and that just slight variance of a little bit more of social jet lag than we necessarily need is really throwing off the body. And then if you are already predisposed to that with some of that social jet lag, adding in those added sugars, those processed foods, it's like that compounding effect that continues to build.
Exactly. And us being on the road, for the past year or so,
hard.
it was very hard. We've talked about it a little bit before, but just trying to go the extra step of making sure you're getting that quality food in throughout the day, trying to kind of wind down at a decent time to be able to get that quality sleep. Super important, especially when we're talking about social jet lag or jet lag in general, when going from the West Coast to the East Coast. Definitely felt a little bit of that, but I think overall, like doing those extra things made it not as bad as what it could have been.
Yes. All right. Scary thing number 4. Ooh. So that is going to be not getting outside enough throughout the day.
This is big. This is a big one.
So naturally, we are diurnal creatures. So what that means is when the sun is up, we should be up. When the sun is down, we should be down. We're not nocturnal, right? Like cats. They're out all night running around. Black cats running around these streets. Oh. So when people are exposed to sunlight, there are so many amazing, components that are taking place inside the body. I think there's a lot of research out there on just looking at, the sun as it rises. So not like peak day, but looking at the sun as it rises is that internal clock to your body of like, hey, it's daytime. Like, get up, feel good. If you're looking at the sun in those first few hours of it rising, it's almost like that cup of coffee. You don't need that caffeine to help regulate your body and get you awake. Seeing the sun is going to do that. But that's not really what I want to talk about today. There are so many other things out there. I think a big thing is people have a barrier to going outside because they are, first of all, they're just kind of inside all day. They're working. They're, sometimes people go from their house to their car to the office building. They're in the office building all day. They take break in the break room, they're getting absolutely no time outside. And getting that sunlight on your skin is going to help to produce vitamin D. And increased vitamin D levels are associated with a decreased risk of literally almost all-cause mortality, especially when we're thinking of cardiovascular disease. The big kind of caveat is people are like, well, I take supplemental vitamin D. And researchers have found that supplemental vitamin D is not the same as getting in vitamin D from the sun. A big caveat to that is, though, that we think that the sun is harmful for us, right? And yes, skin cancer is very prevalent. I do want to, kind of say that. However, I'm trying to find this quick study here. Okay. So it says excessive UV exposure accounts for only 0.1% of the total global burden of disease and disability, which was accorded in the WHO, or the World Health Organization, in terms of the global burden of disease due to ultraviolet radiation. So only 0.1% versus a 3.3 billion worldwide impact on the disease burden that is associated with low vitamin D. So it's directly related to cardiovascular disease, like I said, metabolic disease. So when we're thinking of different, kind of those counterparts, the biggest thing we can do is, if we're worried about our risk for, sun exposure to cancers, we can wear sunscreen. And just making sure that you're getting a good quality sunscreen is the number one thing. But don't hide from the sun because you are afraid of getting, that sun exposure. Wear a hat, things like that, because the benefits that the sun brings are so important. So
Yeah.
one study did note the impact of sun exposure on blood pressure levels. So they looked at individuals who the research study took two different groups of individuals, and they put one into a tanning bed of some sorts that promoted uh, ultraviolet light similar to those that would be improved from the sun. And then they did a control group in a tanning bed with light that was not associated from the sun. And it found that those that had the similar UV rays to the sun had a decreased blood pressure of, I believe, let's see right here, of an average of an average of 6 millimeter decrease in their systolic and diastolic blood pressure. So when we think about the relationship between high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure and stroke, it is a direct relationship. So just think about, you could be decreasing an average of 6 could take you from, 130 to a lot closer to 120, and
Yeah.
90 to a lot closer to 80. And therefore we get ourselves out of that like pre-hypertensive stage into a normal range.
Yeah, I think a good rule of thumb is trying to get outside in the morning, lunchtime, and then in the evening. So you want to get, like when she said, when the sun's coming up, and then when it's noon and when it's at its highest point, it's actually going to give you a lot of benefits. So you want to get outside again, 15, 20 minutes at a time. That's like what she said. As far as the, UV radiation and people being, afraid. Yeah. If you're going to the beach all day
Right.
in Mexico or all day in Key West, you gotta take precautions. We're not trying to get out there and burn and have all the, skin cancer, stuff like that. But if you're just an everyday person, living, wherever, even here in Florida, it's good to get out, midday, get that sun, get that, the benefits of the sun. And then obviously with the red light, when the sun is setting, super important to kind of try to look right over, by the sun, not stare, right at it, but look towards it, and you're getting the benefits of the red light. And we know red light therapy is great for reducing oxidative stress and inflammation.
Yes, exactly. And then we just think about those more like well-known things, like vitamin D levels are associated with low vitamin D levels, are associated with osteoporosis in older adults. And then there is some research coming out on, again, the impact of the oxidative stress inside our body and how that responds to the sun. So if we're doing a lot of the things that Jon and I talk about on the podcast, we're eating well, we're avoiding too many added sugars, we are eating healthy fats, we're increasing our overall inflammation inside our body, the sun is going to respond differently to our skin than if it would be a little more stressed and a little more inflamed. So just keeping that in mind. I do believe the study I read said that something was like 6 or more sunburns a year, like severe sunburns a year, are very like an increased risk of skin cancer. So just making sure, as we said, if you're going to be having this all day, tanning things in Mexico, you are putting on your sunscreen.
And number 5
This one's
on our
scary.
super scary, spooky Halloween themed episode. I hope everybody is still with us and not too scared right now. Number 5 is cutting back on the alcohol. So, holidays, Halloween, Thanksgiving, New Year's Eve, around Christmas time, definitely a lot of drinking going on, right? It's kind of the thing to do. But we really need to understand the impact of alcohol and the impact that it has on our body. Obviously, we know alcohol is not good for us, but even, some light to moderate drinking has shown that it's still not very, very good for you,
Right.
So,
and I think that's the scariest thing is a lot of us don't understand how bad alcohol is. I even in researching this, and we were kind of talking about this last night, shout out to my parents. I love my parents. Your parents tell you when you're younger, don't drink alcohol. Alcohol is not good for the brain. And I feel like once you get to a certain age, you forget that is mainstream knowledge because everyone drinks. And it's not like a little casual drink here or there. It's like, let's go out and let's drink for hours.
Take some shots, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like you forget that it's such mainstream information, first of all, the negative effects of alcohol. You have to remember that back in the day, before there was all these fancy drugs and Clorox wipes and this, that, and the other, people used alcohol to kill bacteria. So you are directly ingesting something that has been used for centuries to kill bacteria.
And hearing that 10, 15, 20 years ago, I would be like, all right, I'm killing bacteria. That's good. I'm staying healthy. As we know more and more about the microbiome and the importance of the good bacteria in our body and especially in our gut, which has 85% of the serotonin and happy levels in our body, which I always love to plug that one because it really does mean so much. We're killing all the bacteria. We're messing up basically every organ in our body, when we're drinking. And again, we always kind of say this, moderation is fine. A couple drinks at happy hour, once a week or once every couple weeks, I think is perfectly fine. It's once you start getting into the, 3, 4, 5, 6 drinks maybe in a day or even in a week, if you drink, twice or 3 times a week, a couple drinks is going to start having that negative impact. So I had a study there.
Oh, sorry, don't have a study.
We both have amazing studies, obviously. All right, published in JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association, in 2020, with over 300,000 participants, showed that those who drank alcohol 10 drinks or more in a week, which honestly, I mean, nowadays,
it's not that much.
Nowadays we're not doing that, but even, it's before, like on the weekend, you're going to have, you're going to drink a
few drinks Friday, a few drinks Saturday.
Yeah, you're getting up to 10.
You're watching the game, a few drinks Sunday.
They had a 95% more likely to develop hypertension and cardiac disease than those who had less than 10. So again, you want to definitely keep it on the low level, if not zero. We try to go, because that's the thing with alcohol. I think, you can say moderation and you can say, but
that's what I wanted to say real quick.
But the thing is, you can say it, but 1, 2, it's going to lead to more drinks.
Right. I think the biggest thing is people say, oh, I do drink in moderation. I only drink on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So when Jon is saying light to moderate alcohol use, he's saying like 1 to 4 drinks a week, because heavy alcohol use is considered 8 or more drinks for women or 15 or more drinks for men during a week. Okay? A whole week. And then binge drinking is 4 or more drinks for women or 5 or more drinks for men during a single occasion. Those two have the highest risk of all-cause mortality. Now, I'm saying it like it's scary because it honestly is terrifying. How many times I've been out with friends and in one occasion had 4 or more drinks as a woman. And like I said, I just didn't really realize, I think, how that changes so drastically from light drinking is like 1 drink or 1 or 2 drinks a week. Moderate drinking is like 4 to 6 drinks a week or
Yeah.
something. And then heavy drinking is, what many people are doing nowadays.
Yeah. And Courtney and I have been traveling. We've gone to many different places, many different breweries, bars, stuff like that. And every one that we go to, we try to see, okay, what are their mocktails? What are they offering here? Do they have any benefits? Do they have any adaptogens? Do they have any, lion's mane? Different things like that you can, there's drinks out there that are good for you that you can sell at a bar, and a lot of these places just don't have that, or they're even surprised when we ask for a mocktail, a menu list of mocktails or anything like that. But I will say, this past weekend we went out and had a great time for Halloween with our friends, and did not drink at all, had a few mocktails, and it honestly was a great time. And I feel like some people maybe just want to do that, right? Because I feel like I have wanted to do that, but it's not super easy, especially when other people are around drinking. And just kind of doing it, ripping the Band-Aid off, trying it, ordering, just like a soda water or whatever at the bar. It's doable, and you can still have a great time, especially if you're out with friends who understand and they're not, asking you, why aren't you drinking, all this stuff like that.
Right, yeah. And I think that's why like a soda water with lime or like something like could literally be a vodka soda with lime, and people are less likely to ask you, "Oh, where's your drink?" if you're holding something versus if you don't,
Yeah.
And I think we just don't realize how much oxidative stress that happens when we consume alcohol. It is directly impacting, the metabolism of folate in our body. It affects our sex hormones, has all these different DNA altering effects on our body. And I think if we're just surrounding ourselves by people who know this and take this into consideration, that, like Jon said, you can still go out and have a great time with your friends. And they understand that maybe you don't want to drink all the time. And you understand that they have their own, opinions and decisions as well. And it's all about a balance.
Mm-hmm.
And there has been, studies out there. We're going to link Dr. Andrew Huberman's podcast on literally everything you need to know about the effects of alcohol on your body in our show notes today, because he goes way into more depth than what we're going into. And if you're like, I really want to know more about this, he talks about both the negatives, a lot of negatives, and some of the positives about drinking alcohol. But he really does preface it that the negatives truly outweigh the positives. And however, there has been studies that shown 1 or 2 drinks a month, so not a week, a month, do have like no deleterious effects. But 1 to 2 drinks a week even do show some deteriorative effects when it comes to our brain. And how many times have we been a little bit more forgetful or a little bit more anxious or a little bit more stressed during or the day after or 2 days after we drink? And that's truly because of the impact it has on our body. So hopefully you guys understand the effects a little bit more and you can make more educated decisions on not only alcohol, but all these 5 spooky things we talked about today.
Yeah, and thank you for everybody reaching out on Instagram, recently, and YouTube, everything like that. We love all the comments, and everybody kind of giving their 2 cents a little bit, and their opinions about all the issues and everything that we talk about on here. And we have a lot of great episodes coming forward. We're excited to get back to it. We're gonna have a nice little studio here soon.
Yeah,
So
just doing all the right things to get there, and we're so excited, and we appreciate your guys' endless support. We've been kind of paying a little bit of respect to those that have been affected by the hurricanes. And we are hearing everyone's responses that they're missing the podcast and they're wanting it back. So we are ready to bring it back to you. So what's our challenge this week, Jon?
Our challenge is to pick one scary thing and do something differently. If you feel like one of these 5 scary, spooky things
resonates with you.
Exactly, thank you. Then pick it and try to do differently, whether it's the calories. Hey, like I have been on this low calorie diet and I've just been, my workouts haven't been as good. I'm losing some weight, but I'm also losing muscle mass. Or it's the alcohol. Hey, I've been maybe drinking a little bit too much the last few weeks. Just pick one. Try to implement some of the strategies that we brought forth today and just kind of see how it is and let us know. Let us know if it's working. Let us know if it's not. We're here to help.
Right, exactly. So always feel free to post in the comments or send us a message on Instagram if you feel like something is working or isn't working, and we'd be happy to work through it with you. So thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode, and we can't wait to come to you next week with more amazing information. Have a
Peace.